This is a talk that I've given in different parts, and I'm going to kind of string it together in one big, quick dialogue on diet. Here goes. 65 million years ago, an asteroid hit the Earth in what is now the Yucatan Peninsula and killed 90% of all life on Earth. It was horrific. The energy release was so great it lit the atmosphere on fire. The atmosphere was filled with ash for 3 years at least, and nothing grew, and everything died. Now, one animal that did survive was a small rat-like creature that is the ancestor of all mammals. That creature was the ancestor of all the different mammals that live on Earth today. It's my idea that the reason it survived was because it was able to dig up and eat roots. It could eat carrots and potatoes and peanuts and whatever, plants that grew underground that would be preserved in the nuclear winter of the destruction, and it could survive. Well, after about 20 million years, one of the descendants of that rat-like creature climbed up in the trees, and it became a monkey. And for 40 million years, that monkey and the descendants of that monkey lived in the trees. And they largely ate fruit and nut from tree and vine. That's what they ate. Now, about 4 million years ago, a descendant of those monkeys came down out of the trees and became the group we know as the primates, all the different primates that wandered the fields and savannas. And then about 400,000 years ago, the first human appeared. 400,000 years ago, the first human appeared on Earth. So, if you look at the length of time people have been humans, 400,000 years versus 40 million years that the monkey was in the tree, our physiology is much more similar to the monkey. What the food the monkey ate is still most optimal for us to eat today, fruit and nut from tree and vine. Now, as the primates came down out of the trees and started wandering through the savannas, and through the fields, they had to eat different types of food. They had to adapt to be omnivores to be able to eat different types of food. One of the reasons we cook meat is to break it down so it is digestible. There's a fantastic series of videos by the Honolulu Vegetarian Society. And one of them, I'll try and reference down below, is the difference between carnivores and herbivores, between animals that are meat eaters and animals that eat plants. And I was astounded to find out that most carnivores and meat-eating animals, hunting animals like tigers and lions and wolves, they only eat once a week. They have one meal a week. They have a very large stomach and a small intestine, and the food has to digest for a long time to break it down. Now, herbivores, plant eaters, by contrast, have a small stomach and a very long intestine. And they eat constantly, all the time, 3 or 5 meals a day. Now, human physiology and human behavior is just so much more similar to mammals that are herbivores than mammals that are carnivores that we are primarily herbivores. Additionally, it appears that milk has addictive properties. The short casein protein strings in milk act as a sedative in infants and cause a pleasurable reaction in the mind. And this is very practical. When the baby's nursing, it causes it to be still and quit flailing its arms around so it can nurse, and it makes it want to nurse again so it stays alive. It's my idea that when we cook meat, we break down the protein in the meat into short protein strings that act similar to the casein in milk, and eating meat has addictive properties. It's pleasurable, similar to drinking milk and eating cheese. If you've ever eaten fake cheese, it's remarkably lousy. It tastes like nothing, and primarily because it doesn't have the short protein strings, the caseins, that we still get an addictive response of pleasure and sedation from. So it was very difficult for me to quit eating beef. It took me 3 years to get fully used to eating garden burgers and soy burgers and going on to eating something else. We have an addictive quality to eating meat. Furthermore, for most of human history, it hasn't been possible in the different environments to always have access to fruit and nut from tree and vine. We've had to substitute with other types of food just to stay alive. Eskimos eat primarily meat because there's very little fruit and nut up in the Arctic Circle. However, today, with shipping and transportation and trucking, it is always possible in a supermarket to get fruit and nuts. We don't have that same problem anymore. And a pound of nuts costs about as much as a pound of meat. Also, we were kind of misled. There's not 4 basic food groups of milk and cheese, bread, meat, and then fruits and vegetables. Those are the 4 economic sectors of food producing in the United States. And to keep those 4 economic sectors healthy, we have to encourage that we give money to all of them so we train our children to eat foods that they make. It is more economically efficient to make meat and meat products because you can harvest animals anytime. You can always kill and butcher an animal in any season. But fruit and nuts must be harvested at the appropriate season. Harvesting fruit and vegetables and nuts requires a large workforce, and this encourages collective action, labor action, and socialism. Harvesting meat requires a very small labor force and is more amenable to the principles of capitalism and commercialism. You can always keep the assembly line going because you can always kill more animals. I noticed this with a fruit pie manufacturer that only occasionally will produce apple or peach pies, which I love. Frozen peach pies, frozen apple pies. But they always make turkey and chicken pies. And I figured out the reason is they use the animals to keep the factory line going so they can actually use it for fruit and vegetable once in a while. Now, there's a strong economic incentive for you to eat meat that's not necessarily in your own best interest. And the 4 basic food groups really are carbohydrates, fat, protein, and fiber. And fiber is neglected. You need to have 1 gram of fiber for every 100 calories. You need to have 30 grams of fiber a day. Your body does not chemically analyze the food you intake. The sugar affects your system somewhat, but primarily it's the bulk of the fiber that tells you you're full. Cheese turns to water. Milk turns to water. Alcohol turns to water. Meat turns to water. All these things slip by your system because they have no fiber and they're calories that are effectively uncounted. If you drink a lot of alcohol, you drink a lot of sodas, you eat a lot of dessert, you eat a lot of meat, you will be fat because you can't stop yourself because you've bypassed your body's natural system of satiation. Everything the monkeys ate had fiber. If you eat fruit and nut from tree and vine, you will eat enough fiber. You can eat as much as you want, whenever you want, and you will naturally stop eating at the appropriate time, and you will lose weight if you are overweight. Lastly, exercise doesn't help you lose weight. Only diet modification does. It takes you half an hour to burn 150 calories on the treadmill or on the stationary bike. And there's 150 calories in a can of soda or a can of beer. If you drink a six-pack of beer or a six-pack of soda, you have to use the stationary bike for 3 hours a day, and you cannot do that without breaking your knees. It's not possible. Why throw a bunch of garbage on the wall and then try and clean it off? Why not just not throw it on the wall to begin with? Exercise has great benefits for health, muscle tone, and general physical endurance, but you will not lose weight with exercise. You only lose weight with diet modification and 1 gram of fiber for every 100 calories. Finally, only drink water or drink beverages that have fiber in them, like V8 or some fruit juices. So only have food in your house that has 1 gram of fiber for 100 calories. Do not have anything that is not appropriate to eat. Only drink water. Now, drinking water is phenomenally boring. It's real boring, but find your excitement in the other areas and aspects of your life. This is kind of a summary of what I've learned in 20 years about diet. That our body is designed primarily like a vegetarian animal. That we need to have 30 grams of fiber a day. That the easiest way to do that is only eat foods that have fiber and only drink water. And if you do this, you will be healthy and at the appropriate body weight. And my rule of thumb is fruit and nut from tree and vine. Thank you, and leave your comments below.